Hello everyone, welcome to Scorcher Toys at anymoon.com's instruction guide for repairing the suit on your Beagle, Ride Armor, or Toynami Masterpiece Cyclone toys. The stick or Scott versions of the toy come with red fabric underneath the armor. That red fabric had sort of a layer of foam over it, red foam. That red foam cracked pretty easily during handling, and as the toy has gotten older, that problem has gotten only worse. So today we're going to peel the foam off of the fabric, and then we are going to get that fabric red, put it back on the toy, and we should have a ride armor at that point that looks as good or better than new. Now a little word of warning, this red stuff that's flaking off is really nasty stuff. It can get into carpets, it can get even just on this paper that I'm working on. Sometimes it kind of gets mashed into it. It's nasty, so be careful where you're doing this, and it's gonna flake off all over the place, so also be aware of that. You can remove by pulling off the waist armor from the front. It's just a clip. Put that aside, turn the toy over, and then there's this piece in the back. We're just gonna pop that out like so. And then there's a screw right in the butt. We're going to go ahead and put a screwdriver in there and take that screw out. And then we can just pop that piece of armor off, thus exposing the butt of the toy. Now we have two more screws in the hips here. Oops, that is a magnetic screw. So obviously keep good track of where your screws are going here. So now we're going to go ahead and remove this screw from the back of the leg. This one is a little bit longer than the one that was in the butt. And we're going to just pull that off from the back, put that aside, and we're going to repeat that with the other leg here. Okay, your toy will look like this now, and what we want to do is pull the fabric out from the suit up on the top and just keep pulling down until we expose the hip joints. And there they are. And then we're going to go ahead and back the screws out of these hip joints. So I've got kind of a twist going on that one. Let's get them twisted out that way. And then we're just going to back these screws out, top and bottom. You can see every time I touch this fabric, more and more of it comes off. So now we're going to do the top joint like so, and then that whole hip assembly will come apart, and we are going to repeat on the other side with that hip. Once the hips are both off, you can just pull the fabric upward on the legs to remove it. And now we are ready to focus our attention on the fabric in the arms. To do the arm, we're going to go ahead and pop off the hand. And then we're going to pop up the gauntlet receiving piece here. And then we're going to pull the wrist collar forward and then rotate the arm around, and you'll find a screw hole. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to remove that screw. And then that should allow the arm to come right apart. You can see where the ball joint was there. Like so. Okay, go ahead and repeat with the other arm. So you've both arms looking like this now. Now these shoulder flaps, they can be disconnected. So you want to just pull up on them and remove them. And then you'll be able to get the fabric over that piece and slide it off like so. So same thing on the other side. You'll want to look at pictures later so you remember which side the shoulders go on perhaps. And then just pull that piece of fabric away from the shoulder, get it up and over. And there you go. You now have all of the fabric off the toy and you're ready to start scrubbing it clean. This red stuff is pretty nasty. I'm removing it using a cheapy nail brush. You should use something similar and put it directly into either a sink or a trash can. You don't want to be handling this stuff too much. Okay, once you've scraped everything off, you should have perfectly white fabric. Obviously, mine's not perfectly white yet. At this point, we're going to try, or I'm going to try, dyeing the fabric, which I'm at a little disadvantage here because I have no idea what kind of fabric this is, but we will give that a shot and check out the results. If you don't know what your fabric is, then you might not choose the right dye. So I used the simplest dye first, because that's the way I roll, and the fabric did not take the dye. Instead, everything came out kind of this pink coral color when it was supposed to be scarlet red. So I will now use a specialty dye for synthetic fabrics, and we will hope for better results. This time I used Ritz Dye More on the stovetop method. Came out much more red. It's a little inconsistent, and I actually like the look of it as far as being some sort of a military fabric. I do have one sleeve that's a little lighter than the other. I could definitely dye this stuff again if I wanted a truer, deeper red, but I'm not so concerned about that. Like I said, I kind of like the look. So we're gonna go ahead and put the sleeves on. Now, before you put fabric back on after you've dyed it, make sure you wash it. I wasn't very careful the first time through, and I got a little bit of pink on my fixed posed hand. These are kind of rubbery hands. They seem to pick up dye a lot more than even the fabric did. So watch out for that. Get everything washed, and then go ahead and start putting it all back together again. Now you want to get the right shoulder piece as you do this, and then you're just going to peg it into place from up above. Don't pull on the fabric too much. You don't want to rip anything, and this can be a little tricky. Let's see if we can get that into place here. And then once we do this, we're just going to repeat on the other side with the other sleeve. With both sleeves on, you're ready to go to the forearms. Now, one thing to point out, I do have the seam on the sleeve towards the back of the toy. That seems to be the most logical way to do it to me. Now, before you put on the forearm piece, you kind of want to get a sense for how that elbow works. So the elbow comes in like this. So once you've figured out the direction of the elbow, you can figure out where these pieces should go. Now you want to have the longer piece on the back of the toy. Now obviously we're going to need the fabric down and around there, but we're going to get that longer piece in the back, get that fabric figured out, and then once we've gotten that figured out, we can bring in the other piece. You don't need that ball joint just yet. As you do this, you want to check, make sure you don't get cloth stuck like I did right there. You want to have the cloth nicely tucked inside and not getting stuck. So maybe we pull it back a little bit there, or maybe we pull it more forward. Whatever we got to do to keep it from getting pinched in between the two pieces of plastic. Maybe we pull it up a little bit. All right, so there you can see, not really getting stuck in there, not really stuck back there. And we're going to put our ball inside, and then we are going to go ahead, get to the screw, sink that screw in, and now obviously you want to tighten this one up enough so that when you go to pull the fixed posed hand off, it doesn't just pull this ball joint out. And you should see things getting very snug. There we go. So now we are going to take this piece here, plug that on, take this piece here, and plug that on. And we could put the fixed posed hand on now. I will wait a little bit longer, and let's go ahead and do the other forearm. Now we're ready to move on to the suit, and what you want to do is find out where the butt is, and that's where there are two holes. And you're going to flip the toy around, you're going to grab your leg. You know which leg to grab. Let's grab this leg by this little thing here that connects to the outside hip armor. So now I know that this is the right leg on the figure. So I've got the cloth facing me. I'm just going to get that back on the leg. And you may remember this from just a little while ago. We're going to put that on, and we're actually going to bring the fabric all the way down. so that the top of the leg is sticking through. And then we are going to get the back of the ball joint on the toy, on the body, get the leg through, and then we're going to put the front of that piece on and then sink those screws in. That's obviously much easier to do when you don't have a camera in front of your face. And then we're just going to repeat on the same side with the other leg, and we will have the cloth on the bottom of the torso. With the hips on, you pull the fabric up and tuck it into the armor up in the torso, and you take the fabric on the bottom and you tuck it into the legs. You can obviously do some fine tuning when you get a little further along. Now you're going to grab your leg armor piece, which still bears the result of my die experiment. And we have holes in the front and the back of this toy. And what you want to do is get it so you can kind of see the daylight between the two of them, which is easier said than done with a camera in your face. But let's go ahead, we'll start at the front. This is the piece here, and we're going to just go ahead and push that through, and then we come around to the other side, and there it is. And we can take our back of the armor, and we want to make sure we got everything tucked so we're not sticking any cloth outside of the seams, but we still want to be able to get that piece through. Let's get back down a little further. So get that into position, but pull the fabric taut. It's a little tricky just to get everything lined up, but that right there is how you want it. So go ahead, get it like that, put this piece on, and then sink your screw in, and you'll be all right, and then do the same thing on the other side as well. Okay, now we're ready to put the butt armor back on, and we're just gonna go like this. Before you do this, take a look at your white pieces, because again, you've been dealing with dye. If you've got some pink thumbprints on there, go ahead and wipe those off. Anytime you're handling dyed cloth, that's a possibility. I wouldn't say it's the end of the world. You're never going to handle the cloth as much as you are right now. You can see as you do this next step that there's a peg on the top and a hole for the screw. We are going to get those sticking out and get the butt flap over that peg, which theoretically should line up with the screw. And you just want to make sure that it does. So there you go. I got to get that fabric up. It's going to apply a little pressure to the top of the fabric there. And there it goes. Make sure it looks like my screw is free. And then just sink that in. And now the butt armor is in place. And we have that little plug that we're going to pop into place to fill it in. All right, now the only thing we have left at this point, besides tucking some cloth into crevices, is clipping on this front armor piece. It does exactly like it sounds like. It just clips into place around the waist. And you're going to want to try to get your fabric as well as you could. Now you can see I got some tucking in to do. And I apparently missed. So there we go. Now it's in place, it's sturdy, and your figure is back together with cloth that will not flake off if you touch it. Now there are other ways of going about this that are similar in the beginning process at least. You're going to remove the fabric from the toy, but then you could use a red Gundam marker if you want really consistent results all the way across the fabric. That's definitely another way of going. I thought dyeing the fabric might be a little bit more problem-free in the future as I move this toy around, but I've got no evidence to support that, so I might be completely wrong in that assumption. And it does come out with more of a weathered look because the dye isn't 100% consistent, so you might either like that or dislike that. That's obviously up to you. So now you know how to go about stripping that gunk off the fabric that is falling apart on your toy. and sprucing things up to get it back to looking good. Check out my full article on anymoon.com, and as always, thanks for watching.